This message had been in my spirit for a long time. Um, I actually talk a lot in the classroom to the kids about it. And it's so funny because Pastor kind of touched on it on Sunday a little bit. And I was like, wow, he's up there. He's teaching what I was going to teach on Wednesday because it's been going. I thought about doing it a couple months ago and I thought, no, I don't want to make everybody mad. But it really has nothing to do with anybody. This is for everybody. But it's why I make my kids go to church. Okay. And I don't want to hurt nobody, offend nobody. So that's the reason I've been real hesitant about doing it. But it's everything I tell the kids back there as well. And it's only because I absolutely love them. Even the ones that don't love me back, I love them. And I don't want to see anybody in hell. Nobody. I want all my kids. I tell them that. I want all of them. All of them. I want us all to be in heaven. So more and more studies are showing that young families are disappearing from American churches at large, and that children and teens aren't participating in religious life. It's just the facts of it. Most saddening of all to me, I've heard parents say that they don't want to force their beliefs on them. When I hear those arguments, I think, but isn't that my part of my job? We force our beliefs on them all the time. So it's something that's truly important. Like, you need to go to school. We force that on them. You need to wear a seatbelt. You need to help with household chores. That one always gets enforced. You need to brush your teeth. Just simple stuff. This is a lot for little kids, because once they get up teenager years, it's really hard to do much because they're taking their own responsibility and they start making their own choices. If my kids were always capable when they were little of choosing what was best for them, it'd be one thing. But they're kids, especially when they're little. They choose what's fun and immediately rewarding, not necessarily what's best in the long run. And that's where mom and dad come in, the old killjoys. Making them eat their veggies and do their homework and go to bed at a decent hour. We struggle with that one still. And in our house, get up and get dressed for church on Sunday morning. Now, I understand and not wanting to brainwash your child, but I always worry that in the name of letting our kids choose, well-intentioned parents are really giving their kids no choice at all. I always tell my kids in the classroom that. I'm like, please, let your kids have that choice. Bring them to church. If the only thing you ever remember is that we played games back there and we had fun playing games, bring them one day. Please bring your kids one day. I'm hoping they remember some of the lessons too, I tell them too. But taking my kids to a restaurant and saying, you can order whatever you want without giving them any clue as to what's on the menu isn't giving them much of a choice. Taking off in a car on vacation, hitting the interstate and saying, hey, it's your choice. Where are we going? What are we going to do? That's not going to work out when they're little, right? If they're going to choose, they need to know what there is to see. And even then, they'll need a parent to work out all the logistics. They simply don't have the life experiences to do what I would be asking them to do at that point. If kids could hardly be expected to order dinner or plan a trip at all on their own, how are they supposed to develop a worldview from scratch without parental guidance? That's why I think that parents have a moral obligation to teach their children whatever belief system they think's right, even if it's not mine. Of course, kids can tweak the framework they're given as they get older according to their emerging values. You may end up in a different church from where you started. Jack was in a Methodist church when I met him. It doesn't matter. But they need to start with something. I tell my kids that too. You may not always go here, just as long as you go somewhere. I know people who've let their kids decide, and they didn't like church, so the parents took turns staying at home with them until they were older. Well, aside from the fact that I'd much rather be at church than home watching Elmo every other Sunday, I think that's not the way to go. Sure, I could do it. I also could let my kids who dislike brushing their teeth wait until they're older, but that's not like that habit's going to get any easier to establish later on. I think it's important to wait to wait anyway. So all hold on just a minute. So I'll enforce it now, even on days they don't particularly want to do it. Younger kids would probably rather stay home playing than attend church, because I did when I was a kid, to be honest. Actually, I brought my Barbies to church, and all I did was get down on the floor and play. Me and my cousin Angel, we just played in the floor. But guess what? It's better for them to come to church than stay at home. Just because they want to stay home doesn't mean they should. The benefit of church isn't in just the one church service, but in the entire pattern of gospel learning and living that it's a part of. They won't see that until they're older, and that's fine. But part of my job is to supply them with the long-term vision they aren't quite mature enough to grasp yet. I'm going to switch over here to, Christian was telling me the other day about this system she teaches at school, and it was so closely to what I was teaching about, I had to include it. There's a teaching model. Can you hear me? There's a teaching model that Christian goes by in her class. It's called the I do, we do, you do. So it captures the essence of teaching with gradual release of responsibility to your students. The I do, in a nutshell, involves you telling students what they need to know and showing the things they need to be able to do. Be the example, sharing your knowledge with them. The we do is the second phase, where you do tasks together, guiding them through the problems and tackling it with them, being there with them to help them through it, and giving them feedback on their attempts. You do. And this is the phase where students practice and retrieve the knowledge that you've given them. Such practice and retrieval helps students to retain what they have learned to become fluent with what they must know and be able to do. She's there in the classroom, walking around, monitoring them, but letting them figure it out on their own. If she sees somebody struggling, she bends down and helps them, shows them examples, and explains it to them again and again and again and again how to do it correctly. This is the same strategy we should be using to parent and guide our kids. And God is the ultimate Father. He's there as our guide also the whole way. He's never going to leave us. Now, I spend a lot of time in my classroom telling the kids how imperfect I am and how I'm not knowledgeable and how I couldn't even see myself as a youth leader, obviously. And I'm pleading with them the whole time to follow Jesus, pleading for them to pick the right path in their life, because the other path, it's going to be uphill, and it's a struggle. I shared my salvation story with them many times, definitely every VBS, and how I couldn't see myself helping anybody, especially when I was a kid. I was a sinner, middle school, a potty mouth, and sometimes I was even a bully. Definitely middle school. That was a rough time, those 3 years. So there was probably more than one person shocked to find that I was leading a youth group when they seen it on Facebook. I'm sure there was a lot of, wow, really? Wow, really, Lori Hamby. Oh, wow, okay. Woo. Yeah, don't take your kid there. I'm sure someone was thinking it. I mean, that's just the way it is, so. But, I mean, I was saved at 12, but I wasn't perfect yet, that's for sure. And I sure ain't perfect now. I was still learning. I had parents, family, grandparents were pouring into me, teaching me, praying over my life, taking me to church. Even if I laid across the pew and slept the whole time, I was there. And so when it came time to set me free, I now have that responsibility. So they've done all they can do. And they can still pray for me and try to still guide me, but now I take the reins in my own hands. They've given me those stepping stones that I need. Let's face it, once they're teenagers, they're already old enough to start making those important decisions on their own. We got to get them when they're little. And man, we have so many little kids here at Vacation Bible School. I just got so excited. Because they're all they're like around the same age and stuff. And so I would love, just like our older kids now, because it's hard, because they got jobs, they can't help it, they've got jobs and stuff. trying to pay their car payments, and stuff, and they're trying to figure out the world because we've done all we can, and we're giving them that responsibility and kind of sending them out and being like, okay, we've taught you what we can teach you now. Please make the right choice. We love you. We pray for you. But now our little kids are just at such a great spot that we could raise them up in the same kind of age group and they'd have each other to lean on and stuff as friendship. So one day they'll have the maturity and the life experience that they were lacking when we made so many of their daily decisions for them, including whether to go to church. When that day comes, I hope they continue to choose the path that we've set them on. But sure enough, they're going to choose for themselves. And I won't regret for 1 minute the years I spent making my kid to come to church with me. I take my kids to church because out of all the things I want them to know, this is the most important. It's okay if you disagree with me, but I think it has the greatest potential for lasting happiness of anything else they're going to get in this world. Proverbs 22, it's the only verse I'm going to say tonight, and everybody knows it. 22:6, Proverbs 22:6 says, train up a child in the way he should go, and when he is old, he will not depart from it. Even if they go away from it, and it tears your heart out, just know God's still remembering all those times that you was in here praying over them, teaching them, trying to put the word in them. And he's not gonna forget that. And he's gonna bring them back around. The average church has only 40 hours in a year to influence a life. Only 40 hours in a whole year to influence a life. The average parent has 3,000 hours per year to influence a life. So just look at those numbers. I love y'all. I hope you still love me. It's just been on my heart for a long time. And so I thought, you know what? Teaching it to my kids. I might as well say it here too. But I love y'all.